listening to episode 17 of the podcast, and we're here at home base Riley's. And Riley's, certainly a place that has been wonderful to us since we've started this podcast.
Absolutely. Riley's is the perfect home base, right? It's the perfect environment to film a podcast. It's just it's very homey.
I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he actually works at another bar in town. And he said him and a bunch of employees from their bar came down to Riley's for wing night, and they were sitting there at Riley's, and it was so busy because Tuesday night on wing night, it's ridiculous in here. You can't get a seat. And they finally got a seat, and they're sitting there talking, and he's like, you know what? Like, this place does on a Tuesday night what our place does on like an entire week.
Yes.
He's like, this place is king of Peterborough.
It is.
And the reason being is that they've got the pub, they've got this little lounge here, but they also have the pool hall and the nightclub upstairs. Right. And then the rooftop patio, which we hope to be.
Which we're going to be hopefully doing a podcast up there. Yeah. But he's got it's the quality of food, the portions, and he's always prided himself on that, the customer service. So, and I know a lot of people that come here and they go, the nachos for that price?
Yeah.
Outrageous.
For that price.
The cheese sticks and the dip, it's like real dip, authentic dip.
And their wings, out of all the bars and all the wing nights in town, I think they have the best wings. They've got a lot of meat on them, and the bones are clean. It's a good spot.
I actually met with Jim this week, or you and I met with him about the podcast and just talking in general. And he's fascinating to talk about because he says we never scrimp on the food, or we don't scrimp on anything. He said we just pride ourselves on that, and he said it works. And you hear about other restaurants that they start to cut back, right? And it adds, like, consumers notice that stuff, right?
Well, you can't give people an experience, because the reason why they'll always come back is for the first experience they had. As soon as you take that experience away, then they're not coming back again. We love their nachos, but now they don't have guacamole, or now they don't have that. It's like, I'm never going back there again.
Because we are all creatures of habit, are we not?
I will hold the dirtiest grudge against them. If they're selling my favorite beer on tap, and I go back and they're like, we got rid of it, and now we have this other beer, I'm like, well, I'm not going to see you anymore.
It can be a deal breaker.
So
and that's how we are. We're very orderly, and we have our expectations. And if we're going out to spend our hard-earned salary on something, then we want what we had last time.
Yeah, we want what we want, and you better have it the same every single time.
And I get laughed at. Christy's like, every time I go to a restaurant and I have, like, I don't know, 6 or 7, a staple in town, I always get the same meal, the same drink, the same hors d'oeuvre. And she's like, you are so boring, but I still love you.
Yeah. But that's because you can't get it at home.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe you could, but
because we don't get out that much, right? We have kids, we live busy lives, so when you go out, you want to know what you're getting. So anyway, that's Riley's, though. Like, it's got a great vibe. Well, so they've been good to us. In 17 episodes, we've taped 16 here, right? We taped the one at the zoo. And the zoo was good to us, too.
Yeah.
But they didn't have nachos.
They didn't have nachos.
They had T-bones.
They did. And they had a nice plump pig that we didn't get to sample.
Yeah, that was fun. And and we've been having some places reach out to us to have it on location there. So we'll be releasing details on that over the next little while. But it's fun.
I like it when it goes on the road. But it's also, I don't know, like in terms of, like, doing an interview and talking to someone, it's nice to be in a home base,
Yeah, for sure. It's comfort food.
Yeah, it is. It is. But we started recording this just a second ago. There was no one here. And then as we're talking, both of our guests showed up. So Melissa's there.
Thank God. So. I was sweating buckets. I forgot my deodorant. They're here.
But I'm excited to talk to our main guest tonight, which is Melissa Camus. And forever, at least in Peterborough, she's going to be known as Odin's mom.
Yes.
She's Odin's mom. And I'm sure
I think she's okay with that.
Yeah, she's probably really okay with that. So
I've never met Melissa, but I feel like we have a bond. Because we did the story on her, and it just went viral. She's going to tell you today about what's happened since then. And it was that moment, right? That beautiful community moment, and where the community stepped up for Odin and Melissa, and then the whole world did. And it was, we had talked about it in future past episodes, but it was very surreal to experience that for all of us. You went down that night.
I was
too.
there, and like Twitter exploded, and like I was on like a picture of Odin, and I was all over other news sites.
You were like photobombing.
It was crazy. I had no idea. And like my mother's calling me the next day, but it was
Mike,
funny.
you're with that rock star Odin.
And that was just it. Is that it was and that's one thing I want to ask her about, is how many people have been trying to ride the coattails of Odin since this started, right?
Right.
And if she's had issues issues like that because this thing went huge, and I'm sure there are a lot of people trying to cash in on something.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So,
for sure, people try and do that.
But she seems like a pretty good.
It's like winning the lottery, right? Then everyone's your friend.
Yeah, for 15 minutes. So
yes,
and, so that's very cool. And then of course we have Karl Lawson.
Kawartha Karl's here.
Yeah, he's right there. He's he just
and that little ditty came out of nowhere. I've known Karl for about a year now. He's a legend in town in local music circles. But the Liftlock City song, it was like I heard it the first time. I'm like, I loved it right away.
Me too.
And I think it caught on. Like Cruz played snippets of it. I think Country 105 or a bunch of radio stations. We posted on our website and everyone started sharing it and playing it. And I think Karl posted it one night, woke up the next morning and it's like his song had gone kind of viral. But it's just really nostalgic for Peterborough, and it's a beautiful song, and it covers how we all feel about this city and how when we come, it's comfort food, really, this city, and that's how that song felt.
And the thing I liked most about it is that it wasn't cheesy. It's not like a cheesy tune where it's like up by the water tower in Dearbury or something like that. It really wasn't cheesy. It was,
not at all.
It's well done, and I love that, like going down George and coming up water, that whole thing. So
and going up Armour Hill and banging on the windows. Yep, Armour Hill.
I still do that, and it's just creepy for them.
Yeah. But no, it's great. And Karl's a great guy. Writes a lot, and he's going to tell you about his local music cronies that he hangs out with. He's got royalty.
He does have royalty.
Yeah,
it's
he does.
Cool.
I wish I had that. I've got you.
Not
You're my hero.
As I'm like garlic burping, I had these sausages for breakfast.
I smell it. It smells good,
you
Mike.
Smell it?
Yeah.
It's like,
why are you burping right now?
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
It's okay.
It's the beer, right? The beer makes me burp, and then you're getting the honey garlic. I'm probably not going to drink for Melissa's interview, but either way, these sausages were delicious, but now I'm getting burps.
From the market?
That's it.
Yeah.
No, they're not from the market, actually.
So I went to my first wearable art show last night.
Yeah, so they came on the show earlier in the week, and it's kind of like inspired like through businesses, and they create these insane contraptions. And this one guy, he was I guess sponsored by a pizza company, so he's supposed to look like a giant pizza. Did you see this guy?
I didn't. We left at intermission, so I probably missed the most epic part. My daughter Chloe was in it, so she's part of Strut. So Strut's association is they're in the first part of the public art and market hall, so all the kids go up with her. So Chloe was a popcorn girl.
Oh yeah.
So we made her a dress popcorn bag, and then we got real popcorn and put it on her dress and put it on a purse for her. And it was great. It was catwalk. It was sold out at the market hall. It's first wearable art show. I think it was the 4th or 5th year I've been doing it.
Yeah.
Great atmosphere in there. And you're right. The second part, I guess, was local businesses, right? Inspired by. So who came on the show? Was it from Public
I can't remember who it was. I'm terrible remembering.
Yeah.
But I know the model, the guy was dressed. It wasn't finished yet, but he was like dressed as like a piece of pizza.
Yeah.
And his costume was made out of pizza boxes.
Yeah, it's pretty creative, the stuff I saw. There was one records, all records someone's wearing all over them, and recycled newspaper. And I don't know what I would do for wearable art, though. What would you do if they said, Mike, please be part of this?
They try and make me do some weather thing, and like there'd be like a sun and like a lightning.
So you play right into that? Yeah.
Would I play into that?
Yeah.
No. Well, maybe if I didn't have a choice, which is usually the matter, yes, I would play into it. But if I had the choice, I don't know who would I like. I'd align myself with like a poutine company and just be a giant gravy bowl of
pulled pork all over you.
Yeah, just all over me, saucy, and people could eat me.
I like that. That was kind of Chloe's thing, the popcorn.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's edible, right?
Yeah. Well, not really, because we used a glue gun. Yeah, like Chloe, don't offer anyone this popcorn. But it was falling over the stage, and I was worried that the subsequent performers were going to slip. And
dude, that must have taken forever to like glue on.
It did, and it was my idea. But luckily, I delegated like I do. I come up with the great ideas,
and then you delegate to your wife.
So Christy, my wife, Christine Abbott, helped as well. Christina's great, though. I mean, this is part of the Strut program, and they empower these girls to go up on stage in front of all these people. So it's it's a great experience.
Dude, do you see that?
Oh my God.
Oh my God,
David Koski.
I just realized. I looked. I'm like, who's on the couch over there?
Yeah, David Koski is back. I don't think he's been back since episode.
Like 7
or 8.
So he's been on almost a 10 episode hiatus.
Right. Because he had heard rumors that we fired him as our intern, which was totally not true. We took his clipboard away. We put him on a probationary.
I don't even know where the clipboard went.
I don't either. I don't either. I think it went to our new intern that we're interviewing because we didn't think Koski was going to come back.
Oh my God, we're getting a nugget. I'm going to make it more than a nugget today.
Okay, so Koski's going to be on again.
We're celebrating the arrival of David Koski.
David Koski is melting away as well. I'm proud of him.
David Koski has a drink named after him now, the Bloody Koski.
Oh, I tried that.
Yeah.
I tried that there at next door last week.
Yeah.
I tried the Manhattan and the Bloody Koski.
Yeah.
I like the Manhattan more.
You liked it more? I want to try a Bloody Koski.
I don't drink Bloody Koski.
Even Koski doesn't drink it.
Even Koski doesn't drink it.
That was his advertisement for Bloody Koski. Yeah. I don't drink the Bloody Koski.
I think because it was $30. It was more than the Manhattan.
Hey man, I'd pay anything to get a little Koski in my mouth. But either way, we're going to wrap up the first portion of
let's do it. We got Melissa now. We got Kawartha, Karl, and Koski.
Oh man, this is
and
awesome.
We got Jason Wilkins in the house again, live illustrating.
That's right.
The man.
You hear the alliteration here. We've got Camus, Karl, and Koski.
Wow, that was intentional.
It was. Yeah. Great job, Neil. You're booking guests like amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
That does it for our first segment. We're going to bring on Melissa Camus coming up after the break. PTBOCanada Live is brought to you by Ben Van Veen Realty. Ben Van Veen is a swell guy. He works with Century 21. He's been doing a great job in the region. The reason why is because he's got some pretty unique services. Number one, he will send contractors to your home to get it market ready, and then you don't pay for those contractors until he sells your home. That's a pretty sweet deal. Number two is that if you list with him, he will give you 1,000 air miles up front. And then if you mention the podcast, he will give you 2,000 air miles. We like the way you think, Ben. And then on top of all of this, one of the greatest things that he does is he will actually create a website for your listing. So you're not cluttered in with all those other homes online. No, your house, your listing gets its very own website, and I'm sure that's going to help it sell a little bit better. So if you want to check out Ben's services, you can go to benvanveen.realtor. That is his website. And I guess the last question everyone has is, how does he do it? Well, his name's Ben Van Veen. That's how he does it. He's got a great name. Let's go back to the podcast. Welcome back to episode 17 of PTBOCanada Live. Joining me now, my guest of honor for today is someone who's forever going to be known as Odin's mom in Peterborough. Are you okay with that?
You know what? I'm okay with it.
You're all right with Odin's mom?
Yeah, I get it a lot. I'm all right with it.
Were you always Odin's mom, or is this obviously something that happened about a month ago?
This is a pretty new thing because Odin's a pretty low-key, laid-back, stick-to-himself kind of guy. So it's definitely new, but I'm definitely solidly Odin's mom around town.
Well, we don't have to, I don't think we really have to delve into how this all happened because I think for the most part we do. But we'll go over it very quickly. So it was around, I think, March 20th to March 23rd was where like the real upheaval of Odin began and took over Peterborough and the world. So essentially what had happened, Odin had a birthday party and no one RSVP'd and no one came, and you quickly sent out a little message to your Facebook cronies, and then it blew up, and Neil, of course, from PTBOCanada got a hold of it and said, hey, let's put together an article on it, and then explosion, and it went all over Peterborough. I remember getting it in the morning. Neil sent me a little message first thing in the morning saying, hey, would you mind mentioning this and saying happy birthday on checks to Odin if that would be cool? And I'm like, you know what? And then I saw the article. It's like, give him a text. I'm like, you know what? That'll be cool. I'll give him a text. That maybe he'd think it was cool that the weatherman at Checks was giving him a text message. Little I know is like Elijah Wood and like the entire like all like the coolest celebrities in the world like actually texting this kid.
Yeah.
But so anyway, it went viral. He got messages from all over the world, and of course, he's an Aspie kid. He's got Asperger's, and this I remember going to his birthday party that night, and I saw I think one or two smiles. How important is it when you see Odin smile at all?
You know what? I was actually just remarking yesterday that I've seen him smile more in the past month than I have his entire life, and he had a few pretty big smiles that night and everything, and even just that, some other people have kind of remarked, well, he didn't seem too happy with it all. Well, he was, trust me. It's even those couple smiles that everyone got out of him were a pretty big deal, and it was remarkable to see him. I've never seen him even getting out of the limo, which was just a whole other thing, but seeing him even step out of the limo with confidence was amazing.
What was he like before that?
Well, he's just sticks to himself, and he has a hard time. I mean, Asperger's is social difficulties mainly. That's kind of the hallmark of Asperger's. So a lot of the time pretty socially awkward. And that seemed to push him so far out of his comfort zone that he just kind of went with it. It wasn't even a, let's freak out because this is too much. It was so much that he didn't have a choice but to kind of ride the wave.
You had to, because it was just phone lighting up all the time from all sorts of great people. I mean, Breakfast Television had you guys down. You did an interview, and did they already send you to the East Coast yet?
No, they haven't. We're actually waiting until the weather's a bit better out there.
Yeah.
Until it's not pretty buried with snow, and hopefully until Odin's done school for the year, so that we don't have to pull him out.
So he's going to get to captain a Navy ship.
Yeah, it's the Marlant.
The Marlant, and this is because of his. I guess he's somehow involved with the Navy, the cadets, or
yeah, he's a Navy cadet,
right.
And it's kind of been something he's wanted to do his entire life. And a couple of uncles of mine are in the Navy, so it's kind of a family thing, and it's something that's been on his radar for a long time. So he is beyond excited about that.
And then there were hockey games. There was all sorts of stuff. I mean, it was pretty amazing and he's 13?
He's 13, yeah.
Wow, so he's a teenager. It must have absolutely blown him away. But you just touched on something that I wanted to bring up, because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine probably about a week ago. He was like, oh, what's going on for the next podcast? And I was told him that you were coming on. And he's like, that whole thing happened, but he's got Asperger's, so he probably didn't enjoy it, and it's probably not going to change him socially at all anyways, because he's got Asperger's. So, isn't it kind of all for nothing?
No.
That's what I wanted to talk
I actually posted something online this morning on my Facebook page thanking all our new friends and family and everyone we've met, because even our neighbor the other day, last week, approached me. And she just, pretty much with tears in her eyes, said even she's noticed a difference in the way he walks. He's even walking taller. He's walking with his head up. She stopped him and said, oh, hi, Odin. And he actually interacted with her. And that's not necessarily normal for Odin to do. He's very closed off. And this is just, again, it's pushed him so far outside of his comfort zone that he's adapted remarkably well. And it's almost like it's pushed him into being social.
Okay.
It kind of makes me feel like when you see your child take those first steps, or you see your child, or you hear them say their first word. The first time he approached someone about this and said, hi, I'm Odin, and shook their hand, I wanted to cry, because it's not a typical thing for him.
Okay.
So it's given him such a remarkable amount of confidence that he's outside of his box, and he's loving being outside of his box. He still has his moments where he can't handle it as well, and he's got some outs, and he's got things he can say to me to be able to just, Mom, this is too much, and okay, that's fine, let's scale things back, you can go read a book, you can do whatever. But it's given him such a huge confidence boost that even just that coming out of it for us, for our family, has just been remarkable.
Wow. Okay, so there was, in fact, progress done.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we talked about before, when the whole thing blew up, was Odin at school and being bullied. And he said to me when we were standing outside of the bowling alley, that kids have pushed him into lockers and just bullied him for the sake of bullying him, likely because he's a quiet kid who didn't know how to socially interact.
Yes.
So he's weird. Let's make fun of him. How has things changed for him at school? Has anything changed?
I think things have changed for him at school. It's
because you were ready to take him out.
I was pretty ready to pull him. And it's still something that is definitely a consideration, just based on his needs, rather than a reaction to anything that's going on. But he's more confident, and people know him, and it's brought attention to him specifically at school. So he's not getting physically bullied as much. He's not. And he said a lot of kids have laid off because people are watching right now. And I think that's a huge part of it. I don't necessarily think it's a more respectful attitude from people. I think it's more of a, we might get caught doing this. Because, really, they're kids. They're 12, 13-year-old boys.
Right.
So he said some of it is more, some of the kids who did push him around before, now it's more verbal than it is actual shoves in the hallway and stuff. And I was talking to him about that, and he said, I don't even care what they have to say. I don't care, because they're not the people who matter.
Right.
So that's what he's taken from it. We went yesterday to a paintball tournament at Crazy Bill's Paintball. Yeah. And
great name, by the way.
Oh, it was so much fun. And he met so many people, and he was talking to people, and he was walking up to people, and he was, got a couple of people's phone numbers. Let's keep in touch. And he's realized that it's not even, bullying is not even necessarily just at school. He's a socially awkward kid.
Yeah.
So everywhere you go when you're socially awkward, there's a level of awkwardness to it. But he doesn't care anymore.
Right.
He's like, I know I'm awkward and I know I have a hard time, but the people who matter don't really care about that. They get past that. So that's kind of his mentality about the whole thing now.
So as a 13-year-old kid, and all of a suddenly, the world knows who you are and they know you have Asperger's. Was that an awkward thing? Did that add more pressure onto him, or did that kind of free the chains for him a little bit?
I think it more definitely, like you said, it freed the chains for him a little bit, because before it was just, oh, he's Odin and he's awkward and he's weird. Not the case. And he realizes now that people recognize that. And because people, when we sent him back to school the week after everything blew up, he actually had to sit down with his classmates, and the principal and the teacher were there, and they said, are there any questions about Asperger's? Is there anything you guys want to know? You know, Odin, can you share tips with your classmates to help you, help them interact with you and things like that? So it's opened a discussion, and he is more than happy to tell people about Asperger's. If people are coming up to him saying things like, what exactly is Asperger's? And he'll say, well, it's this. It's really socially, I'm a little awkward, and socially I have a hard time. And, you know, I'm smart, but nobody really gets past the awkwardness to know that. And so it's opened him up, and he's never been ashamed or embarrassed of Asperger's. He never has. But that's because I've always been very open with him about it. This is what it is. And when he said, oh, I don't really fit in, that's Asperger's, buddy. We can get past this. And it's always been a very open discussion in our household. So I don't think he sees it as anything with other people to be embarrassed about or ashamed of or anything. He just, it's Asperger's, and that's been my life, and that's what's going on. And I'm just wired different. That's how he puts it. I'm just wired a little different.
Is there anyone in history that you can, because I don't know, was there anyone in history that had Asperger's that, like, you know, had these achievements that you
Putin has Asperger's.
No way.
He does.
Is that for real?
Yep. Bill Gates.
Bill Gates
has
too.
Asperger's.
Oh.
Bill Murray said he was diagnosed when he was younger with Asperger's. Susan Boyle, the singer, has Asperger's. There's a list. There's a ton of celebrities that kind of got past their social awkwardness.
Okay.
Or just, instead of getting past it, just embraced it.
Embrace their awkwardness, because, as you said, Odin's very smart, and that list of people, obviously a lot of very smart people. So it's a matter of getting past it and then just doing what you want to do and doing it well.
Yep.
Okay. Well, that was a very important question that I wanted to ask. But another way that I wanted to go into was kind of off Odin, because we'll go back to him in a second, but I wanted to focus more on you now. In terms of how this has changed your life over the last month or so, have you kind of seen big changes in yourself in terms of your social activity? Because I think you're a little more prominent online nowadays than you used to be.
It's funny. I remember remarking to my boyfriend at one point, I was like, I never in a million years thought people would listen to what I have to say. Because I am chatty and I do talk a lot, and I never thought people actually listened to what I was saying. So I've been asked to be a speaker at a couple different events.
Ontario,
the Ontario Autism
Yes.
Fundraiser. It's at Lionhead Golf Course on May 27th. So I'm going to be speaking at that. We have been asked to go to Chazapalooza.
Okay.
In August. And just there's a few events here and there specifically related to autism spectrum that they've asked us to appear at. And I never in a million years would have thought, because this is just normal life for us.
Right.
It's just normal, everyday things that need to be dealt with. And people are, oh, super mom. Nope, I'm really not. I'm a mom who's dealt with this. That's it, period. And every mom who deals with it day in, day out to extent they're a hero all on their own, and they're a spectacular mother all on their own, just handling everything. So it's funny that I got about 2,000 Facebook friend requests, and I was like, I don't know these people, you know.
Right.
I don't need to be globally friends with everybody. I don't need to be doing that. I've got my core group of friends, and those are the people who have been there with us through things. So socially online, it seems people are paying more attention to what I'm saying, and I can be rather outspoken and a little pushy.
Okay.
And I know that about myself. So I'm definitely keeping a better eye on censoring some things, or just kind of finding a more tactful way to go about getting a message across. So for me, that's been a realization that people are noticing. And it's it's kind of a tricky thing.
Yeah, it would be. And I would imagine that once this whole thing happened, you must have received tons of messages and attacks from certain mommy bloggers out there. How did that go?
You know what? There were a couple that I responded to just because they were people that I knew.
Oh.
And I did respond, and I just said, it's a shame you feel this way. Obviously, if you're spreading things online saying, oh, I know this family very well, you don't. You don't know us as well as you think you do. So I'm going to ask you to stop. But beyond that...
I think I know who you're talking about. I think I saw that comment out there, too. Yeah. And it led to nothing, and she never said anything.
Well, exactly. And I messaged her as soon as I was made aware of it and said, you need to stop now.
It was people trying to bring you down. They just, I don't know if it's jealousy or whatever, but they just want to knock you off.
Just look at the source. It's, you know what, if you don't have input on our life and you haven't been there through all the trials and tribulations of this, you don't really have a right to speak for us.
Right.
And beyond that, if you're going to just talk without, knowing the backstory of how this started, without knowing Odin, without any of those things, I don't care what your opinion is. I just don't, because it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that's the odd time I would hop online and I would look something up and I would just, get so mad and but reel myself back and say, well, what does it matter what someone online said? What does it matter? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but sometimes they're fun to look at.
Exactly. And I kind of was reading some things and just kind of had to shake my head and just... I don't understand that people would rather focus on the negative, because this has been so incredible. It's been so amazing, not just for us. We've had several families get a hold of us through Facebook and say, oh, the week after this whole story broke, the school board approached us and said, oh, we have autism counselors on staff now. We can offer you services now.
Yeah.
And, families saying, I don't think that's a coincidence that all of a sudden the school board's like, oh, well, we can offer you this help and we can offer you this help. We had a counselor the next week.
Well, think about how it must have shaken things up in the school board that all of a sudden all of this attention was focused right here in Peterborough at one of their schools.
Yeah.
So, I could see how that would shake things up a bit.
Yeah, and but it's a good shakeup. It was a necessary shakeup. Even if those 4 families that got a hold of us and said, we now have services, I will take all the heat and negative comments in the world. I don't care, because like I said, that doesn't really matter. The fact that kids are getting services and kids are getting noticed because of this, it's perfect. It's bigger than Odin, and it's bigger than me, and it's bigger than our family.
Right.
And we went to Eastside Mario's for lunch last week, and the waitress cried. As soon as she saw me, she just started crying, and you're Melissa, right? I said, I am. And she just, thank you so much. My son was just diagnosed with Asperger's, and people are talking to me about it, and you've changed our life. And it's such a heady responsibility to know that something you've done has quite literally changed someone's life. And I didn't set out to do that.
Yeah.
I set out to make Odin a little happier on his birthday.
See, I have waitresses cry when they see me all the time, too. But it's usually because it's an all-you-can-eat buffet, and I'm going to eat them out of the restaurant.
There you go.
And they know who I am. They hate me because I'm the weatherman. But at the same time, and that's just it, is that the negative stuff is coming from generally negative people, I would imagine. These are just people who are always there to put someone down and whatnot.
They're people hiding behind a keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
You know what? If you're not going to say it to my face, I don't care what you have to say online.
Right.
I don't.
And I think one of the things I kept seeing on message boards was it was irresponsible for this mom to put her 13-year-old son his phone number online and to put him out there to the entire world. And for you're saying, well, it's a month later and this has been nothing but positivity, right?
Yeah, and it's number's been changed. That's been handled. It was because really, what's the big deal? Oh, well.
Change the number the next day. It's
exactly.
over.
Don't really care. And I was definitely monitoring everything that was coming through his phone just to check and make sure there was nothing inappropriate coming across. I've asked him, don't go online and be looking at Odin stuff just because of the negative comments and things, unless I'm there with you, because if there's something that needs to be explained, there's something that needs to be explained. If there's something I need to talk to you about because it upsets you, I need to be able to do that.
Because he's still 13.
He's a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah. He's not like me, who I go and read the comment boards on the Czechs weather page and people are calling me an idiot. I can take it. I don't have to call my mom, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he's dealt with it remarkably well himself.
Yeah.
And he's been largely shielded from a lot of the negativity, and I just don't think he cares. It's his saying the other day was when people were asking, well, how are you dealing with people, saying nasty things to you? And he just kind of laughed and said, oh, they hate me because they ain't me. And that was his thing. And I just, he's very humble about it, but if that's his way of dealing with it, you know, of course they're going to give me heat because look at everything that's happened for me.
Yeah.
And he just kind of looked at it and he just...
It's like, what are you going to do? Not everyone's going to like you in life, right?
Yeah.
But you got to focus on the people that do.
Yep.
Well, one of the greatest things about Odin's birthday, when I was in the bowling alley and I saw a woman who I had met several times around the community, and she came up to me and she's like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm like, why? She's like, well, my son has Asperger's and he just got to go and meet Odin, and they exchanged phone numbers, and he gave Odin a present and said, Odin said maybe they could hang out sometime.
Yep.
Like this is, and this is something that never would have happened for Odin, and it had this not happened.
Yeah, he's made friends.
Right.
And really, if you're going to take anything from it for Odin specifically, Odin doesn't need gifts. I mean,
No.
obviously he appreciates them, but he didn't need stuff. He needed to not feel invisible. He needed to feel important. He needed that confidence boost, and he got it.
Yeah. So, okay, he's 13 years old. We got high school around the corner.
Yeah.
Now what? Do you have a new plan moving forward for high school?
Not necessarily. We're just kind of... The funny thing with kids with Asperger's is, I mean, routine is important, and having a plan is important, but being extremely flexible is also very important.
Right.
And it's really based on his immediate needs and where he feels comfortable. So I think high school, you know, if this confidence boost he's got, if he continues to build upon that, I'm not anticipating any problems with high school.
Okay. Have you ever thought about mixed martial arts or anything for Odin?
You know, it's funny. We actually had a couple guys that are here in town that teach mixed martial arts, and they've gotten a hold of us and asked if he would like to be involved with them, and if he would like, you know, self-defense training, stuff like that. So that's something we're going to be looking at once, you know, life calms down a little bit, because he's in cadets full time.
Yeah.
You know, a couple days a week, and that's kind of his big focus. And for me, it's we want him to be properly balanced with, he's got cadets 2 days a week, he's got swimming, he's got school. Mm-hmm. Those are the important core things. Anything that we build on beyond that has to be able to work into a schedule that isn't a detriment to the other activities he already has in his life. So right now, things are starting to slow down, things are starting to calm down, so now we can actually sit down and more look at, okay, we've had offers of this activity and this activity and this activity. Which one do we feel would benefit Odin the most?
Right.
Confidence-wise is one of the biggest things. Which one would give Odin the most confidence?
Let me give you one suggestion. Sensei Tom Hino at Trent University is their judo instructor. He is a longtime sensei, award-winning, and he's like this tiny little Japanese man who is so filled with respect and energy, and a mentor to me and lots of other people. If you ever consider it, I suggest going to talk to Tom first. He's a former teacher, retired teacher. He's a French immersion teacher. It's the coolest thing when he speaks in French too. So that thing I always found when I was a kid, because when I was in grade 9, I was about 5'3", this short little punchy kid, and I didn't hit my growth spurt till I was about grade 11. So I faced a little bit of bullying when I was younger, and that's how I got tough and got confidence for myself, was through martial arts. However, it's a totally different thing when you're on a different spectrum, like with Odin, right?
And that's why it's funny, because he's always wanted to do cadets, and cadets is very regimented,
Right.
and that is one of the best things for kids with Asperger's, is that regimentation and that schedule and that strictness. So we always joke around with him, how is it that you deal with being so strict and everything at cadets? And, you know, my hair's got to be done on a grid style and everything's got to be perfect, but we have to bug you to take out the garbage. Come on, man. He thrives in that environment. And he has said, you know, cadets is his safe place. And he feels so much more confident in uniform.
Right.
So it's... What we want to do is definitely martial arts, because I don't think that it would hurt him to be able to have like that more confidence boost, and that boost, nobody's going to mess with me kind of thing.
But then it teaches respect, and it teaches self-reliance,
exactly.
and it teaches extreme fitness. And in talking about regimented, every class starts the same way, and you do everything perfectly. Like, you have to meticulously master everything.
Yep.
So if he's into things like that, then he might like it. I saw a picture of Odin online holding a machine gun.
Yeah.
What was that?
He's actually been made an honorary member of the Trenton platoon.
Oh, really?
And they train here at the armories on
Yeah.
Thursday nights. So they swore him in, and they made an honorary member, and they took him for a night of, you know, their basic training, their arms training. And he got to use a simulator, and I think it's an M16, the gun he used and everything. And he was just vibrating with excitement for about 3 days afterwards, because that's his thing. That's what he wants to do. And we actually had a few people approach us over this whole thing. Oh, are you sure it's wise for a kid with Asperger's to, have guns?
Yeah.
I'm confident that he's got enough respect for it that he's
absolutely.
okay. So,
have you had any leeches? People who have been trying to, because you had Odin had his 15 minutes of fame, if you want to call it that. Was there anyone trying to take advantage of you guys?
You know what? I'm sure there are, but we've really we've turned down a lot of involvement with other people. We've got a lot of Facebook messages, groups. Oh, we'd like to come in and redo his bedroom. We'd like to do this. We'd like to, high-end design firms. We'll redecorate his bedroom. Not really necessary. Thank you very much.
Right.
So there are some people, I think, that have stepped forward and have made offers that aren't exactly from an altruistic standpoint. It is more just, well, we can jump on this and look what we did for Odin.
Right.
And I'm sure some of the things we have accepted and the things we have done, it's much the same because,
right.
Corporations don't exactly step in most of the time because they're good-hearted about it. It's a PR thing, and we recognize that.
Right.
But we have accepted some of them because some of them are cool things that we wouldn't have the chance to do with Odin. So if we are giving him experiences that he wants to do, well, we were accepting them because it's for Odin. It was Odin, again, it's even this paintball thing. This wouldn't have happened otherwise, but he walked out of that and he was like, that was amazing and I want to do that. And so I understand that some people who have stepped forward are, oh, let's be friends and I'm friends with Odin's mom and the Facebook requests and all that stuff. And it's like, deny, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know you. And really it's a funny thing because we actually had some kids the night of the bowling alley. Actually, a few kids from his school did show up.
Right.
And they were at the bottom of the stairs, and someone came up to us and said, I think a couple of his classmates are downstairs. And I went down and said to the kids, come upstairs, go bowling. They were like, well, we don't know. And they were all nervous
Right.
about it. And I said, we're not going to exclude you. Why would we make a point about everyone excluding Odin and then turn around and exclude you? Get
Right.
upstairs, go bowling, have some cake.
Go say hi to Odin.
Yeah, exactly. Go say hi. And they were surprised by that. But why would we not? I don't understand why people were surprised by that and why people were commenting online things like, oh, I hope those kids feel ashamed of themselves. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't want them to feel ashamed of themselves. We don't want them to feel bad.
Okay.
We want them to turn around and look at it and say, maybe I could deal with that better next time.
I was hoping that it would turn out to be a learning experience, and I saw those kids too when I was at the bowling alley. I'm like, you know what? I think they're getting a bit of a harsh learning experience here, and good for them. Mm. Good for them for coming down there because I know if let's say the same thing happened to me, and it was my kid that didn't tell me about the party, and I didn't see the card, and then all of a sudden I found out about it on Twitter. I'd be like, you, Car, go. We're going down to learn a lesson tonight.
Exactly. And I mean, we weren't meaning to point fingers at anybody and say, well, this kid didn't go and this kid didn't go, because really it's March break. It's kind of a crappy time to try to arrange something anyways. And he's a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah.
I'm sure printed out invitations going, hey, you want to come to my party? Not exactly the coolest thing to do, right?
And hard for a kid who's socially challenged to go out there and hand out the invitations.
Exactly. So
well,
we're not hating on anybody. We don't feel that anybody needs to hang their head or anything like that. It's just think next time. That's it. Just think and say, maybe I should even just shoot this kid a message. I can't make it, but happy birthday. Just something small. It takes 5 seconds out of your day. That's it.
All right. I'm going to paint a picture. So there's a woman, a mom, and a dad with a child who has Asperger's, around 12 years old, in Peterborough or anywhere. And this kid is having social issues. And they already feel like, well, Odin's already taken it, so now we can't do the social Odin thing. Well, what do you do to them? What kind of advice do you give them to help their child break through these chains?
The funny thing about the autism spectrum, about Asperger's, is it is such a wide spectrum.
Right.
So really, anything you do, what works for one family is not going to necessarily work for another child. And Odin said in a couple of interviews, my Asperger's is more manageable than some of the kids.
Yes, he did say that.
Because he recognizes that. He recognizes he's not as bad off as some other kids on the spectrum.
Right.
And he's very high functioning. So what works for him is different than what would work from us. My biggest advice to families that rather than watching your kids sit on the couch and play video games for another night, there's something out there. It might be the weirdest thing in the world, and you might say, oh, I don't want my 12-year-old joining Highland dancing.
Right.
If it gets them off their butts and it gets them moving and it gets them talking to people, do it.
You could have the next Michael Flatley sitting on your couch playing video games
Exactly.
right now.
You never know. You've got to push them outside of their comfort zone, because if you let them stay in that little box, they're going to stay in that little box. You can't let that happen, and you've got to push. You've got to push. You've got to find something, because you don't want to have a 12-year-old that, oh, he's only 12, we can't push him that hard. Because all of a sudden you're going to have a 20-year-old sitting on your couch doing the same thing because they've never been made to be uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
I mean, this is uncomfortable, what we're doing right now. No one ever does this.
Exactly.
Right?
There's
This
an
is weird.
awkwardness behind everything.
Yeah.
You push. You go outside of your comfort zone, and you need to do that with these kids with Asperger's. You need to find them that niche. Every single kid with Asperger's has it. You might not even think about it, but if your kid says to you, you know, I would like to take folk art painting, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. And it's, if you can't afford to do it, there's help somewhere. Dig around, find something, because you're your kid's biggest advocate. You're the one who's in your kid's corner. And if you just throw your hands up and say, well, they don't want to. Well, of course they don't want to.
Yeah.
A 13-year-old boy doesn't want to get out of bed to go to school in the morning.
Yeah.
You get them up and you make them do it. And it's going to be hard. And they might cry, and they might have difficulties with it. And they might, well, I don't fit in, and blah, blah, blah. It's not so much about comfort as you just have to push. For anything good in your life, you have to push.
And it's good to get out there and talk to people who are going through the same things and connecting on social media, but also reaching out to your community. I mean, reaching out to Peterborough and look what happened, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are probably nervous to connect to strangers and tell them what their problems are. So would you suggest like getting out into the community and trying to let people know what's going on? Or
Just, if you put yourself out there a little bit, again, it's the comfort zone thing. You might not be comfortable saying, oh, my child has Asperger's. You might not be comfortable sharing that information. But if you look at it as, I'm not going to tell people about that, nobody's going to know.
Right.
If nobody knows, you limit your support system.
Right.
You limit their support system. And you're limiting yourself.
Okay.
Why would you do that? There are people out there who, same thing, this is what worked for me, or how about let's get together. Even we had at the bowling alley, we had nonverbal autistic children coming up and just hugging Odin's legs and pushing a card into his hand. And families saying, oh, it's really hard for her to be here right now. But she wanted to be here right now.
Wow.
And it's a push to do something outside of the norm, and it's the same thing with families with kids with Asperger's. If you don't talk about it, you don't get the healing from it, and you don't get the support from it.
That's pretty much it.
If you hide it, how's anybody going to know? How's anybody going to offer you a shoulder to cry on? How's anybody going to say, oh, my neighbor is a counselor and blah, blah, blah. Maybe I could give you her number.
Yeah.
If you hide it like it's something to be ashamed of, and it's something to be worried about, and it's something to hide, it's going to stay hidden, and you're not going to get what you need.
Fair enough. When's Odin allowed getting his first tattoo?
We talked about that yesterday, actually, funnily enough. Honestly, I have so many that I would be the biggest hypocrite in the world if I turned around and told him no. So my whole thing is, if he's 16 and he comes to me and says, I've done research on this shop, I know exactly what I want, go for it.
Right.
Go for it. Because if you get something stupid, you're the one who looks dumb, not me.
Right.
And at 16, I'm all right with that. So really, 16, 17.
16, 17? All right, Odin, if you're watching this and you're 16, 17, because this will be on YouTube forever.
It's evidence.
Yeah, this is evidence. You are allowed to go and do it. And you can get a picture of me doing this on your back.
Go, yeah.
Right? I wanted to thank you for coming on to the podcast
thank
today.
you very much
And
for having me.
I know this is going to keep continuing. You've got some things you're doing. The last thing I want to ask you about was the kindness bench. Where is it going to be, and what is it for?
It's actually, there's an organization called Kill 'em with Kindness. And what they do is
It's violently nice. I like that.
Exactly. Kill 'em with kindness. And they that's what I've said to Odin. Rather than lashing out at those kids and stuff, just try harder to be their friend.
Right.
Because if you try harder to be their friend and you're the nicest person in the world to them, they're going to feel like crap the next time they push you around.
Yeah.
And they're not going to want to do it anymore because this kid's so nice. So same idea behind this. So what the kindness bench is Kill 'em with Kindness gets a bench made, and it's actually made by Taylor Plastics.
Okay.
Here in town. So it's a local thing, a local tie to it too. And what they do is they put the bench in at a school. They have an anti-bullying and kindness rally. And then what they do is some of the older students that are picked and some of the staff are trained to keep an eye on this bench. If you're having a hard time, if something's going on at home, If something's happened to you, you can go and you can sit on this bench, and the people who are trained to notice this will go over, and even if it's just, this is going on at home, my parents are getting divorced, just someone to talk to. It doesn't need to be in a therapy setting. It doesn't need to be in a counseling setting. A big part of this is that it's peer support.
Right.
So then it's what the peer can do is if the kid comes down with something pretty heavy and says, this is what's happening, they can escalate it to teachers. They can say, this is what was said, and that kid can more likely get some help. So now it's just about being able to tell these kids sitting on this bench is not a weakness. It's if your peers see you sitting on this bench, the idea behind it is to teach these kids, if someone's sitting on that bench, they don't need to be ridiculed for it.
Right.
They need love. They need kindness, and they need someone in their corner.
Wow. And you were instrumental in getting this bench put in.
It came up. They contacted me after Odin's birthday and said, what would you think about being involved in this? And this bench is going to be in Odin's name and everything.
Oh, wow.
And I said, yeah, you know what? Absolutely. Let's do it. And they said, well, how do you think Odin's going to feel about that? And I talked to Odin about it, and he said, I think it's a good idea, and I could have used it before.
Yeah. Well, my offer still stands that if Odin wants to come into the checks, get a tour of the station and use all the weather stuff. If he's interested in that stuff, he can come in anytime.
Awesome.
Because it's always good fun. And I do all the tours personally, so that'll be lots of fun.
Nice.
But as I mentioned before, thank you so much for coming in. And you know what? Just thank you for starting all this. I think it's really cool. With the whole anti-bullying thing, I've had my reservations about, are you ever going to be able to fully squash bullying in our lifetimes? Maybe not. But
I don't think so.
I don't think so. There are just people who are bullies out there. But if we can make more awareness about it and make it a little bit less hard for kids going through school, I think that's a lot of fun.
It's
good.
support.
Yeah, it is support.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys. Melissa Camus on episode 17 of PTBOCanada Live, and we've got Liftlock City, a great tune. Have you heard this yet?
I have, actually.
All right. Well, it's coming up right after the break. PTBOCanada Live is brought to you by Kawartha TV and Stereo. They're on Lansdowne Street at Park, and you know what? They are just one of those great stores. It's the kind of place where you walk in and you've got someone helping you right away. Now, not bugging you, but helping you find exactly what you need. And on top of that, they pretty much have everything that you need, all the way up from the high-end televisions right down to some of the bargains that you're looking for as well. But they don't just stop there. They have full home entertainment theaters and crazy massage chairs. You can go there and try it out. I went there and had to sleep for a little bit. I don't know if they'll let you do that, but they are really nice, so they might let you do that. But just keep in mind, Kawartha TV and Stereo, they've helped bring us a bunch of equipment to make this podcast happen, so that's why they're here, and thank you so much for being a part of this. Welcome back, episode 17 of PTBOCanada Live. Joining me now is Mr. Liftlock City. How are you?
I'm very good, Mike. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So you also have another moniker that you go by.
Kawartha Karl.
How did that come about?
Mainly, I did a golf show with Pete Galladay and a hockey show Sunday mornings for about 9 years.
Wow.
And when Gmail first came out, I just Kawartha Karl. So yeah. I've had it for quite a while. It kind of stuck. I have a lot of K's. I'm Karl with a K. So
well, today's alliteration was great because we had all K sounds on the show. So, but aside from that, you are Karl Lawson, and you've written this wonderful song. But you have a very interesting history with Peterborough in terms with music. You've been on a lot of road crews. You've done work with the Tragically Hip with Blue Rodeo, the Sadies, and that's just to name a few.
Yeah.
Melissa Payne as well, who I think a sexier version of her is going to be joining us a little bit later. Is over there, and it's not Melissa Payne, and maybe not sexy. I probably shouldn't comment on Melissa's sexiness, anyways. That's probably just creepy. But aside from that, you've written this wonderful song, and I heard a little bit about the backstory. This started in a backyard barbecue or something, right?
Well. The first time I played it was last summer. James McKenty, who produced the song, has a backyard party called the Harvest Picnic. Him and his wife Kelly. And I had the song about 80% done, and I just wanted to try it out there. We had a little stage in the backyard, and there was some older people there that I knew were Peterborough based. And I played it, and the response was really good. And I played it at a couple of family events, and because it started out as more of a family song. There's references, obviously, to my uncles and where they worked. And then, so I didn't set out to write a Peterborough song, but then some other lyrics came to me just about the town, and then it just kind of morphed. So when I went to James. My mom wasn't feeling really good around Christmas, and she's bugged me for a long time about recording my songs. And I had a studio for 9 years, so you think I would have recorded a few songs, but I didn't.
Did you record a lot of other people's songs?
I did, yeah. James and I had a studio here early 2000. Recorded the first Silver Hearts record.
Cool.
We're really proud of a lot of the work that came out of there. And I did a lot of jingle work. So in the early 2000s, before you were on the scene, they used to joke that I had more hits on the radio than the Beatles.
Well, you did. I keep hearing about this one ad that you've done, and I can't remember. It's Earl. Yeah, that was your number one hit.
My claim to fame.
Your claim to fame. You did work for Dairy Queen, and
I did. I've done I did a Dairy Queen commercial. I wrote a love song to a hamburger, which might become. I think we're going to go record that and maybe do a video to it. I've had some friends for years that are like, you got to do that song. But I turned that song into a Dairy Queen commercial, and I sold it to about half a dozen franchisees.
That's amazing.
I had a Harley Davidson one that I wrote years ago, and I mailed it out, and I sold it to the same thing, about 6 or 7 Harley Davidson dealers across the country, Edmonton, Vancouver, and I would sort of rent it to them, like, if you guys want to buy this for 6 months, use it as much as you want. So I may have to get back into the jingle business. I had too many on the radio at one time, so I felt like I had to back off.
You had to back off a little bit,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So music has obviously been a big part of your life, so you decided, I'm going to record this song. It's just like one of your first personal, like your own song recordings?
Not really. Before I opened the studio, and I had just moved back home to Peterborough, I had 4 or 5 songs. I was jamming with some friends, and I did record those songs. Ian Osborne from Gordon Best recorded one called New Millennium. It was like 1999. And a song called Hey Girl, which the Hawk has always told me. He goes, that's a hit, son. He says, you just need one of them 15-year-old girls to sing that. That's a hit.
Yeah. And that's Ronnie Hawkins, of course, who we're talking about, another guy you've worked extensively with, too, which is totally awesome.
Yeah, I've been Ronnie. Ronnie's been kind of my gateway to a lot of this music adventure. I met him when I was young, and then in my 20s, I was living in Edmonton, and Ronnie would used to come out to play for Peter Pockenton, and so I would go to these shows. And then, I was at the show, and he was looking at me, and he's like, hey, where are you from? And I said, Peterborough. And he goes, hey, he says, come on back, And I've been going backstage with him ever since. And then when I moved home, he had just, in the early 2000, he had just left his manager of a long time. And I ended up just doing work for him and eventually road managing and doing a lot of driving. But if you're hanging with Ronnie, you're going to meet a lot of people.
Yeah, you met some pretty cool people, no?
I got a nice picture with Bill Clinton with his arm around me. I met. That was a private party. Last year I spent 5.5 hours with him, just Ronnie and Robbie Robertson. And,
are you kidding?
At the Four Seasons. I gave Robbie a ride home about 4:30 in the morning.
Oh yeah,
because he wasn't walking.
No.
And that was an amazing. I'm a huge band fan, so I've met just about every member of the band, short of Richard Manuel.
Yeah.
And that night with Robbie was kind of magical because Ronnie would start a story and Robbie would finish it. And then Robbie would start a story and Ronnie would finish it. And a lot of the stories I'd heard before, but now, I got Robbie Robertson, confirming. And, he was 19 years old at the time, when he was playing bars in Arkansas and guys were flicking cigarette butts at them, so...
Like these are cool. These are cool guys.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like these aren't lamos. There's no Perry Como. Like these are some very cool guys you got to hang out with.
And again, it's been a little bit of a Forrest Gump adventure as far as the music goes. And then my association with the band the Sadies, Travis Good is one of my best friends, and they're fantastic. And I just rode around with them for the last 6-7 years, and just at a time when a lot of things happened with them. And one of them, of course, was recording with Neil. And then we opened for Neil across the country, and I got to do a few of those shows. I drove out to Vancouver and, was having lunch with the Crazy Horse. So it's really, all my heroes the last few years, it's really been great.
Who was the craziest party that you got to hang out with? Who was the wild man?
Oh, well, you're not. One of the reasons I get invited is don't kiss and tell,
Oh, good call, good call. Yeah, that is.
Now that said,
or most fun. Who's
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that afternoon, the party for Ronnie, he was sick at the time, and a bunch of people put together a party at the Four Seasons in Toronto, and Ronnie was a special guest, obviously. But in that room, there was 24 people, and there was like Robbie Robertson, there was Paul Anka, Whoopi Goldberg. It was just really kind of crazy. And at one point, I was just a fly on the wall, and then all of a sudden, this guy in a suit comes walking over to me, and he kind of glows,
Yeah.
And he's like, he says, "I understand." He goes, "Hi, I'm Bill." And I go, "I know, Mr. President, I'm Carl." He goes, "I understand you're Ronnie's driver." I said, "I am." He goes, "You must see some pretty interesting shit." So
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
And so back kind of, I guess, to the reason why we had you on is because you wrote this song, and you brought me the lyrics, and there's some great lyrics, like obviously the part where I guess you were kids and you used to sneak up on top of Armour Hill and bang on the steamed windshields, right? Where the kids were making out or whatever.
Well, they say write what you know.
Yeah.
And that's very true. I mean, I lived in East City. I actually lived in 3 or 4 different parts of the city. I went to about 5 schools, but East City, I was born at St. Joe's, and that, my formative years were in East City, and so that was my backyard. Armour Hill, the Liftlocks, all those things, and it was a great place to grow up. And that knocking on the windows, that was a fun adventure.
I bet that would have been fun.
8 or 9 years old, and then run like the odd guy, get out of the car and chase you.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah,
but
you guys, sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but I heard you talking earlier, and I'm pretty proud of the song. Because it's hopefully not cheesy.
It's not.
And that's the response that I've got from people that I know and don't know. That's been the most fun. I've seen Facebook postings from friends in Taiwan, friends in Australia, people I don't know out west. So when you see it being shared, that's really fun.
Totally.
And just to relate to that, in the Examiner article, I mentioned a song called "Land of the Shining Waters."
Okay, yeah.
And when I was out west in my 20s, there was a whole whack of Peterborough people that went out there to the oil patch. And when we have a Peterborough party, there would be, at some point, somebody would put on this cassette. And it was recorded in a basement by a guy that worked at the Outboard Marine. I think he was a Nyat, probably related to the former mayor.
Okay.
Or alderman. And as soon as that song came on, we would all be singing it and dancing along, and it was kind of, in the middle of the party, and all these other people from Alberta would be looking at us like, what's, with these guys? But everybody was kind of proud of that Shining Waters, and I put that lyric in there, kind of an ode to that song.
All right. Well, and I think a lot of people are going to be proud of this tune, and hopefully we can get away from the Electric City and over to the Liftlock City, because when I first started bringing my friends up here, that was the first place I would drive them by. Take a look at the Liftlock.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to mention, for me personally, because the really thing that struck me with your song was within the first minute of it was when you were talking about the fall season and the colors that explode. Because I've lived in areas where, there's so many areas around here which are old growth trees, and they're just absolutely spectacular. And that's what really draws me to Peterborough, because it's just this outdoorsy kind of nature loving city.
It's really funny you say that, because that particular lyric or part of the song, I've had so many people relate to. They said, I knew exactly what you were singing about as soon as like they identified the city the same way. So it's neat that we see what Peterborough has over other cities, and that's one. We are a well-treed, beautiful city, and that was kind of the catalyst for turning this whole song around. That lyric, I was sitting up in Armour Hill, and it was fall time, and trying to put all those colors into lyrics, and then finally it just clicked. And but I got a lot of compliments on that particular lyric, so thank you.
Well, I think your song has captured it for people who have grown up and born and raised in Peterborough, but also for people like me who are transplants and have only been here about 5 or 6 years, but fell in love with the place. Fantastic. It's something that our city can be proud of, and I think it's going to become an anthem sung time and time again. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I think it's time that we hear the song. So we're going to take a quick break, and then let's go over to it. Thanks again.
Good. Thank you.
All right. PTBO Canada Live is shot in front of a live audience every single Sunday afternoon between 3 and 4 p.m. down at Riley's on George Street in Peterborough. When you show up, you're going to find yourself with a cool tall boy in your hand because they're going to be cheap. Also, if there's football on, then you're going to be getting half-price wings and nachos. This is all down at Riley's. Come down and join us every single Sunday between 3 and 4 p.m. Let's start the podcast.
Well, in my town there's a lake and a river. In the summer we swim, in the winter we shiver. When the fall comes, never fails to deliver all the colors that I love. When the trees explode in neighborhoods all throughout the town, green and gold and yellow too, 1,000 shades of brown. Fiery orange, raging reds, all my favorite colors. I was raised in this town, so were my dad and mother. When I was a kid, go up on Armour Hill, knock and see me windows, give the lovers all a thrill. Chase me to the bottom and I'd have a tale to tell in the city that I love. I was born in the Liftlock city where the boys play hockey and the girls are pretty. The Pig's Ear Tavern still sells a lot of 50 in the city that I love. Well, I took a job when I was a teen, built aluminum motors at the outboard marine. It's long gone, so's the Ovaltine. We should have kept a secret. My Uncle Stan worked at General Electric. My granny worked at the West Clock. Uncle Tom worked at Quaker Oats. My buddy worked at the Locks. Cruising down George Street, coming up a water. Pretty good place to raise your sons and daughters. Living in the heart of the shining waters in the city that I love. I like baseball in East City Bowl, a walk in Jackson Park, the old clock tower and City Hall, the fountain after dark. The Memorial Center is a place where all my heroes played. I was raised in this town, it's here I'm gonna stay. My town, there's a lake and a river. In the summer we swim, in the winter we shiver. When the fall comes, never fails to deliver all the colors that I love. When the trees explode in neighborhoods all throughout the town, green and gold and yellow too, 1,000 shades of brown. Fiery orange, raging reds, all my favorite colors. I was raised in this town just like my dad and mother. All right, thank you. Yeah, that was good, thank you.
Well, the key thing is that eat what you want, when you want, and how you want. And never get upset if it's not what you think you should be eating.
Right.
Because if you want it, if you can't make it to the gym, so what? You didn't make it to the gym.
Why do you want to be healthier?
Because I'm 40 years old coming up here at the end of this year, and it's you got to start taking care of yourself or you won't be around for another 40. So,
what's inspired this?
I don't know. I got sick and then lost a lot of weight and then maintained it and maintained it and maintained it, and just I like to fit into smaller clothes. Mitch Wood got a brand new wardrobe there a couple weeks ago because yeah.
Well, I'm just doing it because I heard if I lose a bunch of weight, it'll make my junk look bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So important stuff.
I heard that mine's a button on a leather coat, so
A button on a leather coat. Oh, man, it's like an acorn in the forest. All right, man. Well, but everything else is good. You feeling good?
Great.
You feeling positive?
Yeah, well, everything's great. It's coming along the summer, and Judson, you're going to be coming back on Mondays, hopefully to do some spinning and when you can. And this summer is going to be a blast, and the new bar is doing really well, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that all this new things going on in everybody's life. Friends are having kids. Kids are growing up and the same age, and seeing them grow up. So it's getting to that great time of life when you get to see all these new generations come around. Our generation be doing great stuff, and people moving on with their lives, and people coming into your lives. So it's a great time of year, and it's going to be a great year, I think. So
I love you, David Koski. Always welcome. I hope come back whenever you want. There's no. You don't have to come every day or every podcast. Just come back wherever the hell you want.
I appreciate that. I'll come back whenever I can.
All right, brother. That's it.